my title this morning is, You Are the Light of the World. Next slide. This is from Hafiz, and I love this sentence. Oh, that's the next to the last slide. Here we go. Oops. Yes. I wish I could show you the astonishing light of your own being. So let's listen to text from Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So light is a frequent theme throughout Scripture. We have the sun, the moon, the stars in Genesis 1. And in John 1, we read, In him was life, and that life was the light of the world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. We have not only received light, we have been made light. We are transmitters of light. So when people see us, do they wonder, what is it about that person that makes him or her make such a difference in the world? The earliest followers of Jesus were not members of the educated or upper classes in his society. They were fishermen, farmers, laborers, and spiritual outcasts. And this is because they were people whose work, behavior, or inability to tithe to the temple kept them outside the circle of those considered religiously acceptable. So they were resigned to being considered unimportant at best and unacceptable at worst. So his basic message to these people is, you are the light of the world. Certainly no one had ever told them such a thing before. John the Baptist had called them to repent. But the great gift of Jesus Christ's awareness was that he saw people as expressions of God's love and light. And he was able to translate that insight into practical, pragmatic terms that everyone understood. If he tried to get all metaphysical and philosophical about the truth behind that statement, they would have not understood, most likely, and they would not have believed in their own light. But they could easily understand the absurdity of lighting a candle and then putting it under a bowl so it couldn't be seen. The light would be totally wasted, and none of Jesus' followers could afford to waste anything, especially something as precious as a source of light in their homes. And I think the challenge is not that much different for us today. It's to grasp the truth that Jesus meant what he said. Each of us is the light of the world. We each have the potential to express the divine light and love we call God or Spirit or consciousness or whatever name we have for that. But sometimes we hide that light so completely that we ourselves forget it's there. And we're not here to ignore the light or to hide it so that no one else can see it. We're here to be the light, to let it shine everywhere. And it's only by letting our own light shine that we encourage others to uncover their own inner light and join in creating a world of love and peace. So I want us to look at a few examples of shining one's light. I've got some old ones and some modern ones. So the first one is from 1775. It happens in a Quaker settlement in New York. There was great fear. The governor had gone back on his word, broken another promise, and the Indians were killing because of this. And everyone else had moved away. So one Sunday, the Quakers were in their meeting house with a special guest speaking to encourage them, and he had walked 2 days to get there to be with them. And he read them this quote from Deuteronomy 33:12. "The Lord's beloved dwells in security. The high God shields him all the day long, and he dwells under his protection." The people worshiped in silence, as was typical. And in a flash, Indians appeared in full war paint inside their doors with their arrows drawn. But the chief saw no weapons. So he told his comrades to put their arrows down. And he stared at that Quaker leader while everyone else in the room trembled. The Indian's face registered cold disdain, but the pastor's face radiated the love that was within him. So the chief wondered why he didn't see fear when this man had no weapon. So he signaled for his group to come inside and lay their weapons down. So they all sat in complete silence. And after the service was over, the Indians were invited to someone's home for a simple meal. And the chief shared with the pastor, "We came to kill you. But when we saw you sitting so quietly without any weapons, we lost all desire to harm you." I'm missing a slide there. And now we shall protect you, for we feel you worship the same great spirit that is also within us. He explained, "From now on, the Indians are your friends." This is the power of Christ, not a power over, but a power related to love. Okay, now next one. So now we're going to look at a little girl that's up to incredible things right now. Her name is Haley Fort, and she's now 11. At age 5, she was out and she gave a sandwich to a homeless man. And she thought, well, wouldn't it be better to have a garden so she could give food to homeless people, not just a sandwich? So she started a garden. And a year or two later, she produced 128 pounds of produce for the homeless. She had to kind of build up to that, but she's going now. Then she decided they shouldn't have to be out in bad weather, and she started building 8x4 structures, which is over on the left, with windows and doors and insulation. And they cost about $300 a piece. And when I was reading this story, she had plans to build 12 that year. I mean, I think this is a year or two old, so she's still going. And except for heavy saws, she does all the work with a little help from her grandfather, who's a contractor. Kind of stunning, right? I mean, She's just provided 10 P.O. boxes for the homeless to help them get a job so they have a place to receive offers. She intends to hand out 1,000 toiletry items 500 women's products, 100 coats, and 250 pounds of produce this year. She received a $3,000 grant, gets a 50% discount from Lowe's. Talk about shining one's light. Wow, next page. She has a Facebook page called Haley's Harvest and is inspiring many people and setting quite the example for all of us. And next slide. So now this man, he was born just a few years before my dad. I love his story. He was born in 1921 with cerebral palsy, which impedes your speech, your motor skills, your mobility, your hand control. And at this point in the world, children were not given an education with these kind of disabilities, so he couldn't do much. He discovered a manual typewriter at age 11 and began making art from it. He started using just the symbols above the numbers and made amazing pieces. It can take him from 3 weeks to 3 months to produce one piece. But as time went by, colored typewriter ribbons came about and gave him more flexibility. Then he figured by pressing on the ribbon, he could do shading. So he typed several hours a day for nearly 70 years. He passed in 2007, and he's created all kinds of pictures, from skylines to people to animal to duplications of like the Mona Lisa. So let's look at a couple. I cannot tell that one on the right is from a typewriter. The one on the left, you can kind of get that. But I invite you to go look him up also, Paul Smith. He says to enjoy life is to find ways to be creative. He's a humble, gentle soul who brags about his friends rather than his art. And those who described him that knew him in the nursing home said the artist is more inspirational than his art. So you can find this online. I invite you to Google him and let his light inspire you as well as it has me. And then a final story is about a woman named Susan who was organizing her 33rd year high school reunion. Nobody had taken up doing it at the 30 mark, so she was single-handedly calling each person and getting it together. And she especially wanted to contact a friend named Bennett, who had been close to her when she was in high school. And she lived in Maryland, and he lived in New Jersey with a wife and 2 grown children. But she had heard that he was quite ill. And when she reached him on the phone, he didn't mention the kidney disease, but he said he wouldn't let anything keep him from being at that high school reunion. So they hung up, and she couldn't help herself. She called back and said, I just happen to have a kidney that I'd like to give you. He was stunned and refused. And she said, look, you aren't asking, I am offering. And I'm not doing it just for you, I'm doing it for your family as well. And he continued to say no. And just before the reunion, he got sicker and ended up having to be in a wheelchair. And he was told that without a transplant, he would only live a few more months. Please, she asked. So finally, he agreed to see if she was a match. The day after the reunion, she was tested, and they said rarely did they see such a perfect match in siblings. And a few months later, the surgery was a great success. And he said to her, how do you thank someone for giving you back your life? And her response was, just take good care of my kidney. Oh, so that's actually not either one of those, but that's what I found on the internet. Okay, next one. Sometimes the light we shine affects many, sometimes a few individuals, but what I know is that love always grows and the circle expands. Next one. So here's our summary. There are as countless ways to shine your light as there are people in our world. And here are some of the ways we looked at today. To be the presence of Christ's love, light, and peace, which the Quaker minister exemplified so beautifully. To be compassionate, from Haley, to help the homeless, the hungry, and those in need. And Susan even gave part of herself. From Paul, use your gifts with joy in unusual and creative ways. But all of this really boils down to be authentically you. You are God expressing. Right now, you are the light of the world. Next one. We have come into this exquisite world to experience ever and ever more deeply our divine courage, freedom, and light. That's another saying from Hafiz. And last one. So we're called to shine, shine, shine. And Chris is going to sing a little song, and so we have a participatory piece of the talk now. And I'm going to invite each person to come up and light a candle, symbolizing that, yes, you are willing to be your light in the world. So there's a little candle here that that will just pass to each other. So do you two want to come up first and start? I'm going to light one, and then just as you see people coming and sitting down, more people come up.
You are the light of the world. Shine, shine, shine. Just let your light shine. We're all in this together. So come on and bring your heart. We're all in this together. So come on and shine your light. Shine, shine, shine. You are the light of the world. Shine, shine, shine. Just let your love shine. We're going into the darkness. So come on, let's go. 'Cause we're all in this together. We're all on the journey home. Shine, shine, shine. You are the light.